You are welcome to the Principles of Marketing class under Unit 6, Promotion. Promotion. We are looking at Session 2, the Marketing Communication Process. By the end of this session, you should be able to explain the process of marketing communications, identify the different stages involved in the marketing communication process, describe the stages in the communication process, identify the basic steps involved in developing effective marketing communication. The marketing communication process involves an 8 elements which includes the sender, the receiver, encoding, message, medium, through to feedback. A sender puts information in a form that could be well understood by a receiver, which involves the use of oral, visual, verbal, or written messages to convey ideas. And in putting these words together, it is known as encoding. The sender would also choose a particular means to use to send the message to the receiver, and the means is the medium. You choose a medium or a channel to use to send a message to the receiver. It could be through television, phone call, radio, newspaper, a written document, and etc. The consumer would then interpret the information through the process of decoding so that he or she would be able to understand the intended meaning of the message. Should the receiver or consumer interpret the message as required, it would have the impact that the sender or the seller is wishing for. In our marketing context, you talk about the fact that the sender is the seller or the manufacturer, and the receiver is the customer or the buyer. The process of communication may be subject to some form of interferences that would hinder the free flow of information, and that is known as noise. It makes the form of any barrier which acts as an impediment to the smooth flow of information. It can be cultural barrier, it can be language difference, it can be family members distracting you, it can be distractions in the environment, it can be what someone is going through, it can be an emotional distraction, and whatsoever. So family members can actually distract you. Perhaps your mom calling you during an advertisement you are watching. That advertisement could have enhanced a sale or could have induced you to make a purchasing decision. To improve the chances of a message getting through, it might be necessary to use a number of channels. So for somebody to improve on a chance of getting the message to the intended receiver, there's a need to adopt different channels of communication media, which would seek to counteract any noise in one particular channel. That is why there are some advertisements on television. We have the same advertisements on TV. Sometimes they are being broadcasted on social media platform as well. They are trying all means so that at the end of the day, the receiver will get or receive the message. Feedback from the receiver to the sender helps the organization to monitor its performance and ascertain its having the desired effect. A feedback from a customer would help a producer or a manufacturer to design a product to meet the exact needs of the customer. This is the communication process. Thus, the sender, or let's say the manufacturer, sends a message. He or she tries to put words together through visual means. It could be a verbal or written form of communication, and that is known as decoding. After the message is decoded, we get an intended message or a meaningful message, which is being sent through a medium. A combination of different medium is known as media. Two or more medium come together to form a media, or a media is a plural form of medium. After the message has been gotten, it is being broken down or decoded to get the intended meaning of which the information was sent, that is the decoding. The receiver gets the message and sometimes sends a feedback to the sender or the manufacturer. What hinders the free flow of communication is the noise. So a noise can occur during the time the message is sent, or a noise can occur during the interpretation by the receiver. Steps in developing effective communication. In all, there are 6 steps involved in developing effective communication. We have 1, identifying the target audience. Who are your target audience? Who are you designing the information for? A communicator must start with a clear definition of target audience in mind. The target audience may be potential buyers, they may be current users or existing customers, they may be deciders or influencers in the community. When the person knows who the target audience are, the right message could be designed for them, because a message you will give to a prospect or a likely or a potential customer may not be the same message you will give to an existing customer who already knows about the product. The target audience will heavily affect the communicator's decision on what will be said, how it will be communicated, when it will be said, where it will be said, and who is to say it. Is it a trained sales force who needs to communicate the information? Are you marketing to children, to teens, or to adults? Step 2, determining the response sought. You determine the kind of response that to be given. After the marketing communicator decide on the target audience, he or she must decide what response would be sought. Of course, the final response desired in most cases is to purchase a product, but purchase is the result of a long process of consumer decision making before somebody will agree to buy a product. Such person who is selling the product might have gone through a tough moment. The marketing communicator needs to know where the target audience stand, and so what state it needs to start from and where it needs to direct his or her information. Now let us go through the buyer's readiness state. We have the awareness. The marketing communicator must first know how aware the target audience of the product organization is. Some people may not be aware of it at all. Some people perhaps may know of the name of the product or may have heard a few things about it. In most of the target audience, if most of the target audience are unaware, the communicator tries to build awareness. It can be just the name recognition, just for the person to memorize the name. This could be done with simple message repeating the name so that the target audience can get the meaning or can get the name of the product. Another readiness state is the knowledge. Some people will be aware of a product but may not have deeper or may not have any information about it. Yes, some people may know that there is UCC, but they may not know about the courses which is being offered in UCC. UCC may want its target audience to know about its public 4-year university in Cape Coast with excellent programs in commerce and management studies. UCC needs to learn how many people in the target audience have little knowledge, some knowledge, and much knowledge about the institution. The university may therefore decide to build up the product knowledge as it communicates its intended objective. Another readiness state is the liking. If the people are aware of the product and they have knowledge about it, do they really like the product? How do they feel about it? A scale can be developed covering the degrees of liking. It could be a Likert scale. If the audience look unfavorable on UCC, the communicator has to find out why and then develop a communications campaign to build up favorable feelings. Some potential customers may not like the product due to what they have heard. what someone have told them or some experiences they have had. There's a need for the product owner or the manufacturer to know the liking scale of a product so that you know where to hit at and how to take off that thinking from the minds of customers. If the unfavorable view is based on real problems of the college, then communication will not be the job. If people don't like the school based on technical problems, then it's not only about communication, but it's about fixing the problem, changing what customers don't want to see. It's about building quality image and not just talking. Good public relations also call for good deeds followed by good words. So it's not only about communication, but the school would have to adopt good practices. Also, after liking, you need to look at how the buyer would prefer your product to that of his or her competitors, to that of your competitors. The target audience might like the product all right, but may not prefer it to others. In this case, the communicator will try to build on consumer preference, why you should consume. The communicator will promote the product's quality, value, performance, and other features which the competitor's products do not offer. The communicator can therefore check on the campaign success by measuring the audience preferences again after campaign. After speaking to the audience or campaign about the products, you can measure their preference before then. You can also measure after speaking to them. If UCC finds out that many SHS students like UCC but would choose University of Ghana or Tech instead of UCC, it would then have to identify the areas where its offerings are better than those of competing university. So UCC would have to look at where it does so well than those other competing universities so that it can hit there when it is embarking on a promotional activity. Conviction, another buyer readiness state. You can prefer the product all right, but how you would be convicted to purchase the product is the problem. A target audience might prefer the product but not develop a conviction about buying it, that intuition that pushes you to make a purchasing decision. That some high school seniors may prefer some schools but may not be sure whether they want to go to the school or not. Example is the Pottsville College. The communicator or the marketer's job is to build conviction that is going to the college is the best thing for the students. So the communicator would have to pay attention and hit on the fact that choosing such college is the best for the students and elaborate more on the benefits of the college. Another buyer readiness state is the purchase. Some members of the target audience might have conviction all right, but not quite get around to making the purchasing decision. They may wish for more information or plan to act later. The communicator must lead these consumers to take final steps. Sometimes you will talk to customers. When it gets to the purchasing state, if you don't take care, you will lose the customer. At that very point in time, you just need just a little push for the customer to buy. Some people would prefer giving the customer a sample to try. Some would even go further to ask the potential customers to confirm from existing customers where the product is not of a high quality. After the buyer's readiness state, there's a need to choose a message. Having defined the desired audience response, the communicator moves to developing an effective message. And basically, the message should get the IDA model. It should include the IDA model. That is, ideally, the message should get at the IDA model. In practice, few messages take the consumer all the way from awareness to purchase. But the IDA framework suggests the desirable qualities. IDA is an acronym used to is an acronym which actually explains a model that helps to choose a message. In putting together the message, the marketing communicator must solve three problems. what to say, that is the content of the message, how to say it, that is the structure of the message, and how to say it symbolically, that is the format. Step 4, choosing a message. The communicator must now select the channels of the communication. Should it be a non-personal one or it should be a personal one? With personal channels, 2 or more people communicate directly with each other. So with that, members get to see each other, or those in the communication channel gets to see each other, or there is a right response which is being gotten. It may involve face-to-face, person to audience, over the telephone, or even through the mail. Personal communication channels are effective because they allow for personal addressing and feedback. Personal communication is very important because you even get to know about the attitude of the communicator. You know, communication is made up of both verbal and non-verbal means. Sometimes it happens that if you go in for non-personal communication, you may not have the opportunity to read from the person's non-verbal reaction. But when there's personal communication, you get to understand both verbal and non-verbal communication. Most marketers use personal communication channels. For example, they have company salespeople who contact buyers in the target market. Personal influence also carries great weight for products that are expensive or risky, or for products that are very visible. I quite remember that during the sale of one product which cost around 3,000, this was around 2018. With such products, if you don't involve in personal selling, it will be difficult for people to purchase them. Mostly people think that with highly risky products, it is good to go in for personal selling so that prospects can be convinced to purchase the product. Non-personal communication channels can be through the media that carries message without personal contact or feedback. So it could be television, radio, events, and etc. Mass and selective media consists of print media, electronic media, and etc. Atmospheres are designed environment that creates or reinforce the buyer's learning towards buying the product. Events are mostly designed occurrences that communicate messages to target audience. PR departments arrange for events such as press conference, public tours, and other events to communicate with specific audience. Step 5, select the message source. Who will the message come from? A message impact on the audience is affected by how the audience views the sender. If the sender happens to have deeper knowledge, it might end up, or it might win the customer, that is the customer purchasing the product. But if the sender happens to have a little knowledge about the product, the customer may end up doubting and not even make a purchasing decision. Messages delivered by highly credible sources are more persuasive, just as I explained. Marketers can hire well-known actors and athletes to deliver their message. You know, products which have been marketed by celebrities, actors, sell so much that people think there is so much credibility attached to the product. These famous people are used because they enhance audience attention to messages and retention of it. The 3 factors which most often are found during marketing communication are expertise, trustworthiness, and likability. The expertise is the degree to which the communicator appears to have authority needed to back the claim. When a medical doctor is advertising about a medicine, everyone tends to believe because the person is an expert in that area. Trustworthiness is related to how objective and honest the source appears to be. Some people talk with full vim, with high confidence. These people, we begin to trust them because we know they know what they are saying. Some people also talk with low self-esteem, with low confidence, and with these people, it will be difficult to trust them. Likability has to do with how attractive the source is to the audience. Collecting feedback. After sending the message, the communicator must research its effect on the target audience. If you have designed a product for your customers, you have to look at how they like the product. Is it something they would want to buy again or something they wouldn't want to purchase again? This involves asking the target audience whether they remember the message you communicated to them, how many times they saw it, and what points they recall what you have told them, how they felt about the message, and their post and present attitude towards the product and company. The communicator would also like to measure behavior resulting from the message, such as how many people bought the product and talked to others about the product. This basically explains the process through which the marketing communication follows. In summary, we have learned and discussed the marketing communication process, which involves various stages such as the sender, encoding, transmitting, decoding, receiving or receivers, noise, and feedback. The marketing communicator must follow a logical step in developing effective marketing communication. This brings us to the end of this session. I hope to see you in the next session. Thank you very much for your time.